continue to enjoy your food, but we are going to start the program. So it is my great pleasure to introduce to the stage Mr. Chris Corso with George General Contractors. Chris, come on up. So Chris is on our board, and he serves as our Workforce Development Chair. It is such a great pleasure working for Chris. He's a great board member, great friend, and a great supporter of the Chamber. Chris, come on up.
Well, thanks, Rob. I appreciate that. On behalf of Gary Joris and the 750 employees of Joris General Contractors, we're very pleased to be today's presenting sponsor for State of the County. You know, our mission at Joris General Contractors is to transform people and places. And one of the ways we accomplish that is by giving back to the communities where we live and work. And I can't think of a better organization to be a part of to accomplish those means than being part of the Metro SA Chamber. As I survey this room today and I look at two tables that Joris has right now, I see probably $2 to $5 billion alone worth of opportunity to be discussed at this room. And also this room is filled with a lot of other people that will be very interested in hearing the conversations that's about to happen right now. So without further ado, it's my great pleasure. I'm going to ask our President and CEO, Brett Finley, to get up and join me on the stage today, who has become quite close with the judge since last year. They had it wasn't a fireside chat, but it might as well have been similar to a fireside chat. Brett has been with our organization for a year and a half now, is that right, Brett? And we're really honored to have him as part of Metro SA and the leadership that he's showing. And then, obviously, Judge Sakai, if you'll come up to the stage, he and his wife, Rachel, have been very much involved in the community over the years. I think most of y'all are aware that Rachel is an educator herself, the Harlandale School District. And Rachel, we thank you for everything that you've done in the community over the years as well. So, without further ado, welcome you all, and we look forward to the discussion. Thank you very much.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Everybody hear me okay?
No, I'm live, right? You can hear me?
That's all you need to hear from me.
I don't think you're on.
Yeah, I think I'm on here. Well, before I'll try to project, and we'll get the microphone situated. But Judge, thank you for joining us. We'll start with just a few opening remarks. We've got several, some soft-hitting, some hard-hitting questions and topics to go through today. But first and foremost, opening remarks from you, sir, and thank you again for joining us.
Well, Brett, let me just say thank you to everybody here today. This is, to me, an honor and privilege to come address y'all, especially on behalf of the county. People don't recognize that, man, I'm in my third year, my first term, and, my election cycle comes next after this current mayor and city council races. And so that's just the way things are. But it's been a pleasure to work with the Metro. We've engaged in these State of the Counties, these fireside chats. So Brett, on behalf of the CEO, Rob and Chris, and Gary Joris, who I'm sitting at the table. Gary, I do have to make this comment. I've got the city of San Antonio, the Spurs, the baseball, UTSA. Gary, are you expecting an after party? And is that going to be a private party with those groups? All right. But obviously, this, again, it's my desire to express my sincere appreciation, recognizing that the county's in the house, and we're going to have some really great talks today. So thank you, Brett.
Fantastic. Thank you, Judge. And so hopefully that's a lot better. I don't have to shout anymore. So before we get into some of those hard-hitting topics, though, I want to take you back. November of 2022, you assumed office in January 1 of 2023. Can't believe it's already over 2 years now into your first term. But take us back, before you put your name on the dotted line to file and run for office. Any surprises along the way? Has it been the job that you expected it to be, when you first started office?
The honest answer is yes. There's been no surprises. Understanding that I've been in public service for nearly 30 years, 26 years serving on the district court bench, and then moving over to the executive branch of county government, succeeding my friend and mentor, Judge Nelson Wolff. And so I had to make tough decisions in the courtroom, and really, I'll be honest with you, I have been blessed to provide that leadership, because our guest too, Brett, you know, one of the things I wanted to kind of discuss today is a matter of topic, and I've been saying this in regards to what this job means, and I've come to realize in regards to that question about any surprises, no, because leadership is about decision making. And I think that's what's a fundamental aspect of being a leader. Also, too, what I've learned is that you have to have a process and a system of accountability. I'm sure the business community in this room, that's how you are successful. And that's what I have tried to do for the county, is bring a process in to bring a sense of accountability. Because at the same time, I think the other thing that I've come to recognize is that in order to get what I've asked of the county, better customer service, is the fact, excuse me, that we basically put the right people in the right place. And so, if without personal privilege, Brett, I want to recognize my A-team, because in regards to, what were your expectations? I put the best people, and they have been starting with me since day one, and I'm going to give a special shout out as a point of personal privilege. I want to recognize my staff, Matthew Polanco, Chief of Staff, Leticia Garcia, Chief Operations, Cynthia Koss, Director of Community Engagement, Jim Lefko, Director of Communications, Cynthia's Director of Community Engagement. Noah Barshop is not here today, my Director of Policy. Valerie Lopez, my Executive Assistant, and David Smith, County Manager, along with all the other county employees. I want to give them a round of applause for making me a success, in my opinion. And I'll close with this in regards to this question, in regards to leadership. You know, it's about execution, and it's about getting the job done. And I know in running for office, and I know all the electeds here and all the candidates, you know, everybody asks, what's your vision? And I'm not in any way diminishing. Vision is important because that tells the community where you want to go. But let me make this statement. Vision without execution is yet a dream. And so that's the reason why I want a special recognition for my A-team, the county staff, because we're getting the job done. And I hope that y'all will appreciate that.
Fantastic, and I think there's mutual agreement across the board here. You've talked about what you've learned so far. You've got 18 months until re-election. Hopefully that's not new news, but if it is, surprise everyone. Judge, you're running for re-election in 2026. 18 months left or so in your term. What are you hoping to accomplish despite all the challenges and ups and downs, I'm sure, along the way?
You know, it's to continue the platform that I came into since day one. We made a focus in on public safety, public health, especially mental health, and economic development. And we're going to continue on those platforms. And so I kind of can run through that. I mean, in regards to public safety, the county, and I applaud the fact that I believe I have all my colleagues in the courtroom, and for those that go, oh, is that open? No, they're sitting all separate. We're not talking county business. But the Commissioner's Court has really stepped up in unison to make sure that we've added over 100 deputies to the Sheriff's Department, the Constable Department. We've made a special effort that they get the resources. We've minimized the drama, so to speak, in regards to the law enforcement part. We really have seen the Sheriff and the Deputy Sheriff's Union come together and really work in harmony with Commissioner's Court. And we are going to have those constant tension points in regards to that. In regards to public health, we're creating a new Department of Health that's being led by Dr. Andrea Guerrero. I'm really excited because my predecessor, Judge Wolff, in that court committed nearly $20 million of ARPA money to mental health and to work with the 13 school districts to extend that. And I think that's going to be a really necessary part of what we can do to help support this government. Economic development, I've gotten into the middle of that. took a trip to Japan last year. And
It was a week before this program.
it
last
was a week,
year.
that's
Yeah.
right. And in 1 week, we had 22 meetings, 5 press conferences, came away with that. I can tell you that we, as a result of that trip, we got Yamaguchi Heavy Industries that was going to Austin, Texas, and we pulled them, and they're going to set up shop. Actually, they have set up their headquarters here. We've got a couple others that are yet to be announced. We're excited about economic development, especially in the South Side with Commissioner Clay Flores and your precinct. We know that they're at Texas A&M San Antonio, the new UHS hospital that's going up there, our public health department. We also know that JCB, guess what? Because of the national politics, they're doubling the size of their operation as they're building it out. We've got Navistar, known as International. We've got Holt out there. We've got a lot of things going on that southwest sector, south side, and southeast over in Precinct 4 where Commissioner Calvert presides. So I'm really excited about the things that we're going to continue to do to get the job done. But I wanted to kind of let y'all know that's our strategy. That's our plan to kind of stay in that and try to also address the needs of the community as they arise. The other part is obviously one shift that the county has made since I'm county judge is affordable housing. We have really leaned in to that, and we may touch that in regards to some of the issues we talk about today.
I know some of those other strategic decisions that you've made in leadership positions within the county, the purchasing department, the elections department, the public works department. Talk about those staff changes and what the instant benefits you've seen on the county side with some of the leadership direction there.
Well, like I said, putting the right people in the right place. And I believe they're here today. I got, well, one, it was Art Reinhardt, our new public works director, county engineer. I don't believe he's here today, but we have Gregory Galloway, our new purchasing agent, Michelle Carew, our elections administrator. Please stand and be recognized. There they are over there. You got any complaints? Go talk to them. But one of the things that in putting the right people in the right place is that they have embraced what I've charged them to do, is to upgrade the technology, to embrace technology, to make it more customer friendly, and in our procurement in the Alliance, and I think David Smith, as county manager, has led the initiative through Supply SA to really overhaul our procurement process that we know has become unwieldy. It really is a barrier to small businesses and the small business community in regards to certifications or how they get these contracts. And so we're really moving the county to kind of get out of what I would call the status quo. And I'm challenging them and I'm telling them, I need better customer service. And I do believe, and that's the reason why I wanted to give a shout out to the new leaders, along with all the other county departments. They have to pick up their game in order to meet the needs of our county residents.
You mentioned the elections department. Certainly we talked about local elections. It's important of getting out there, turning the vote. 1.2 million registered voters in Bexar County, 9 or 10% voter turnout, 116,000 voters in the most recent local election. Do you take that as a challenge? What can the county do on the elections department side to help turn out the vote? If, I know obviously adding 2 additional days to early voting coming up here for weekend voting hours. What other things are y'all talking about internally to get folks out to cast their votes?
Well, I think, and I'll give credit to Michelle Carew, even though she came in the middle of the city election, she came and hit the ground running. She brought technology. She upgraded the website. She's made it user-friendly. She's made it so that more information can come out. One of the things I want to applaud the Commissioners Court and my colleagues. Thank you. It was a decision we made at the last Commissioners Court meeting, and we had a majority vote. It was about $1 million, and what Michelle Carew came to us and said, Judge, we can increase the accessibility for the voters in order to hopefully make it more easier to increase the voter turnout, and that was for the deaf community. When I started on day one, the deaf community came to me and said, Judge, y'all really don't make any accommodations for us. And I said, what do you mean? There's no accommodations. We have to kind of figure things out as we navigate. And as a result, there were stories of people didn't vote. And so I said to that predecessor elections administrator, we have under the law to make reasonable accommodations. So what she did, she made the Frio Center, the elections department, an accessible site, one in the whole county. And I pushed her again. I said, that's not good enough. She went to 5, one in each precinct. And I still wasn't satisfied. Michelle came to us, and what we did is we spent, and of course I'm here giving some details, we just spent $1 million on iPads. And you're going, well, what does that mean? And what Michelle has said is, look, Judge, what we can do with the iPads is we have the ability to come to people, especially the seniors, people that are disabled, people that have accessibility, and we can bring our iPads to the car and so they can vote. And with the increased capacity and the technology know-how, we can then hook up with a nonprofit, DeafLink, who is providing interpretation services for us when needed. And so, to a certain degree, you're saying, does that make a difference? I believe that's the law. We need to provide reasonable accommodations. They weren't being provided, and I applaud the Commissioner's Court for supporting that initiative so that everybody in this room, including those that are disabled, the elderly, anybody that has a hard time voting. The other things that Michelle is going to work on, and I'm working hand in hand, is to make sure that we have as many polling sites for early vote, extension of those times, understanding that the county, especially in elections, we follow the rules from the state legislature. And that's what really separates us from the city of San Antonio. We are an extension of the legislature. So I'm not going to get into the political discussion of, well, there's these rules that perhaps restrict or narrow the access. But that is a big issue. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to close with this. That's the reason why there was a lawsuit from the Attorney General against Bexar County on our voter registration. And I defended it on the principle of the constitutional right to vote. I was not going to shy away that everybody has a right to vote. And what we tried to do was increase voter registration by having a nonpartisan, independent voter registration come in and increase it, addressing the new residents into Bexar County. And obviously, our AG didn't like it. All I can say is we won in the courtroom.
So we will shift gears almost entirely now and bury the lead no longer. Project Marvel, Frost Bank Center, probably folks are familiar with those conversations. A lot of unanswered questions still to remain. But I want to try to take this conversation piece and go in maybe sequential order of the requisite checkpoints that need to go along the way. We talked about elections. November election is right around the corner. There's a venue tax associated with the Spurs Arena. Can you give us some insight? Where does that currently stand, that effort, and some key conversations that are maybe happening behind the scenes with 400 of your closest friends and colleagues?
Okay, Brett, you're going to have to help me. I could go on and I could go talk all afternoon trying to explain it. So I want to keep it as high level as I can so that the community can understand where the county is going. And today, I speak only on behalf of the county. There are multiple stakeholders in this. And also, I think that addresses an issue of the communication and the collaboration between the city, the county, the Spurs. And so one of the things I want the community to understand is that, one, I don't want the Spurs to leave town. And they ain't going to leave town under my watch, all right? And so the other thing that I also want to make real clear is that this county venue tax, which is a funding mechanism, when the Spurs first alerted the county that they wanted to consider, we could have taken whatever paths. I decided what is a path to make it a win-win. So this county venue tax as part of the venue tax is a dedicated statute. Again, that's the reason why I bring in the law. It can only go for those projects tied to the venue. And I made this stipulation much like what I did for the baseball, which by the fact, I think we're going to touch that, but we're going to have a new baseball stadium. And so we wanted to use the same type of template, or at least that's what the county wanted to do. And so one of the things is I wanted to fulfill the commitment to the East Side community as it applied to the county facilities. So my number one stipulation was we're going to have to take care of the Frost Bank Center. We're going to have to take care of the Joe Freeman Coliseum, which is right next to it, and we're going to have to take care of the Coliseum grounds that is all owned by the county. We needed to do that. Why? Because I've been asked, well, why do you got to put money to Frost Bank? And I tell people, well, like your house, your home, you don't let it sit and just deteriorate. It needs a new roof, it needs electrical, it needs plumbing, it needs new HVAC, it needs new, and it's obviously for the Frost Bank, it's going to need a technological upgrades. You just have to. And so those are the things that what we've been able to do is we've been identified what are the costs. We know, and I will just publicly state it because it is now of record. If we pass a venue tax this November, it can raise $450 million. So I'm going to let y'all start doing the math. We've also cost out what that upgrade and to renovate the Frost Bank Center. We're going to have to do the same thing for the Freeman because, believe it or not, that whole facility makes money today with all the events that the Freeman has. Last but not least is the Coliseum grounds where the rodeo sailed the San Antonio Livestock. I think Cody Davenport's in the house, along with Derek Howard, who helps run. We have to decide to make sure that that is going to be a viable facility when the Spurs decide to leave. And those are all current negotiations. And so one of the things that we really wanted to make clear was that in order to protect this facility, we wanted to make sure that the county venue tax is going to make sure that the Frost Bank Center doesn't become the next Astrodome, right? Everybody seen the Astrodome? It sits there and rots. 2, we've got to make sure that the Coliseum grounds, especially with our affiliation. So as what we have started and we have committed to, and I know that we are working in good faith, we did this, knowing that, you know, the city has its own initiatives and it has its own ideas, and so does the county. We committed to an MOU. And so those are the fundamental building blocks for this discussion. The first MOU is with the city, the county, and the Spurs in order to figure out how we can help the Spurs find a new arena in the downtown area. 2 is, and it's important, is an MOU with the Coliseum Advisory Board that owns the property and the rodeo. Why is that important? Because what we need to do if and when the Spurs leave, and Bobby's here in the house, we know that we got to have a sustainable, viable business plan for that facility. Guess what? The rodeo has said they're ready to step up, provide a year-round plan, but they're going to need improvements, and we're soon to get some cost issues on that. And so these MOUs are working in tandem along with the individual efforts of the city, the county, the Spurs, CAB, and the rodeo. And so what I'm wanting the public to understand, I want y'all to understand, is that what we're trying to do is we got to figure out how to make this a win-win. And that is something fundamental to me that comes from my court experience. Hold it. When I see 2 disputes, if you really sit down and think about it, there's no reason why people can't come to a settlement, come to an agreement that's in the best interest. I saw that in custody cases year in and year out. I had some of the nastiest custody fights, and I had to work hard to tell both parents, you're working for the same interest, and that's for your children. And so what I'm asking you as a community is look at the best interest for the county, look at the best interest for the city. Let's make sure that the Spurs are going to stay here in town, and let's then have a viable plan so that the east side, and I'm going to put this in the room, in the cities here. That's the reason why I've asked that the Willow Springs Golf Course be included in that conversation. Because why? Because I see that as an opportunity to create an economic generator right at that site. Example, why can't that golf course become a premier golf course just like the JW Marriott or the Hyde Hill Country? Why can't it be a place? It's got Salado Creek going through it. Why can't we make some improvements with the San Antonio River Authority? Those are ideas I'm throwing out to see how we can move forward in a win-win situation. So Brett, that's kind of high level. You know, the bottom line is the November election, and we're going to have to make a decision really quick in the next 30 days. Commissioners Court, I'm giving you the alert. We're going to have to make that decision to move forward with those elections. And then what we need to do is have the community embrace it as to why it's in the best interest of the community. It's an economic development. It's economic revitalization. It's to fulfill the promises to a community that I believe feel that those promises were unfulfilled.
Project Marvel, I mentioned, it's not only the Spurs Arena. Can you talk through the funding specifically on the county's portion for the arena, but then also any other ties to the project, right? We have the land bridge, the courthouse, the chiller plant relocation, convention center, obviously, so many different elements. It's not only the Spurs Arena. There's 7 or 8 different projects over a 15-year runway. Talk about the county's involvement, if any, on other aspects of Project Marvel.
I have specifically stated what the county's interests are. The county facilities, the redevelopment around those facilities, and whatever we can do for the Spurs. That's what we're working on now.
As if there weren't enough nuances and intricacies with Project Marvel, with the Frost Bank Center East Side Revitalization Plan, you're also going to be dealing with, for sure, a new mayor for the city of San Antonio, as well as multiple city council members. How does that dynamic change the negotiating process? Obviously, this has been ongoing for more than a year now. Getting new faces in similar places, though, what's that dynamic going to look like from your purview?
I understand. We obviously, from watching the mayor's race and the council races, I'm putting it on record, we have 2 qualified candidates that are running for mayor. But they have very different views. They're on different sides of the political fence. They have different personalities. And I'm going to work with whoever wins the mayorship. And I'm going to deal with that but understanding, that's the reason why I kind of gave you some of the pertinent details. Because the underpinning of this city, county, spur, rodeo cab is based on an MOU. We've taken that MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, and I've already taken it to Commissioners Court. The city has also done. We have at a high level in a non-binding contract agreed to the goals and principles that I've really overstated. So people can argue, well, what's the city and the county and why? Understanding that we've got an end game to get to. What are going to be the details and how much is it going to cost? Those are things yet to come. But in order to have this November election, we're going to have to get that information. I think the community, and I've heard, they want to see some openness and transparency, and that's the reason why the county came out early. That was a strategic decision that the Commissioners Court made to say, this is how much money we believe a county venue tax will yield. We've already put out what we think is going to be the cost out to the Frost Bank. We're soon going to get some cost estimates on what the rodeo needs in order for that they can provide a year-round sustainable plan. I'm really excited about the opportunities that all bring. And guess what? If we can, and that's a city-county negotiation, and there may be some push and pull on that, but if we get the Willow Springs Golf Course, I believe we have a game-changing event for the East Side, and that was my commitment. And when all this conversation started, let's not forget the community. And that's going to be my message for the fall. I know everybody's focused, and I get the pushback, Judge, you shouldn't give one dime to the Spurs. But at the same time, let me tell you, I pushed back at them. And I said, I want to see a show of hands. How many here are willing to let the Spurs leave? I have yet to see a hand go up. So it is going to take effort. I need Metro Chamber along with all the other chambers. I need the business community to all buy in to ultimately what the city, what the county, what the Spurs, what the cab, and what the rodeo are going to do, and have confidence that we are making the best decision for this community. And I think if we do that in the right way, in an open, transparent way, everybody's going to be happy about the results.
We'll shift gears to the northwest side of downtown. Infrastructure, stadium conversations, 2025, not only for the sport of basketball, but also for baseball, minor league baseball specifically. Can you talk through, and I know you alluded to affordable housing, how did those baseball negotiations, it was pretty smooth, right, Judge? I mean, no hiccups along the way, no speed bumps?
No, there was a lot of pushing and pulling and a lot of negotiation. And that's the thing that I wanted to say, that even though sometimes it gets reported the city and the county clash heads, you have to understand that I, as the county judge, along with my county commissioners, along with my county manager, we have a fiduciary duty. For those that can understand that term, I have a duty to protect the county. The mayor, the city council people, and the city manager and staff have a fiduciary to protect the city. That's the reason why sometimes those negotiations can get intense. I will tell you, sometimes I've yelled, but I yell respectfully, okay? And so,
Thank you for not yelling at me on stage.
And I say it very passionately, in order so that understanding that's how we will come to a good result, is that in regards to baseball, so that kind of circle back. Baseball's in the room, correct me if I say anything wrong. They came to the county saying, hey, can you help us? I actually, in my campaign, said, I ain't gonna support no baseball stadium. And some people in some of these rooms go, judge, you know. And I said, look, I took that because I felt that that was important for me to represent to the community. But I also pledged that when baseball said, hey, you know, what can you do to help us? I sat and I said, look, 3 stipulations. No homeowner property tax. 2, you better put some substantive, substantial equity so that it's not just all on public finance. 3 is, if we're to create a new stadium and facility, we're not just going to give it to you and give it to the ownership. We'll create a city, county, local government, governmental entity. And so they took off and they came back. Judge, I think we can meet your stipulations, which then I said, oops, okay. And they did. And so what we moved forward was, as you know, we're using the TERS, Houston Street TERS, I believe, that's the city-county TERS, which is going to pay for the bonds for the new baseball stadium. No homeowner property tax. 2, what we're going to do is they were going to say, this is how much money we put in. And it was good enough for me. And then 3, we created a local government, San Pedro Creek thing, I don't get all the names right, that will collect rent, an annual rent from the baseball ownership. We'll take a part of the ticket prices, and we'll get parts of the parking with the new parking garage that we put in. And so it fell into place. Now, we did hit some bumps. We had some of the local residents in an apartment complex that was already bought up by the Western Urban Group. But they and the city accommodated them. We gave them a financial package to assist them to move out, extend leases, whatever. We made every reasonable accommodation for the residents. But, but unfortunately, a lot of it got played out in the media, and certain voices were always heard above others. But we were able to move forward. And my last report is we've been able to really take care of everybody that was affected by that. Now, in regards to the affordable housing and the school district, they were tough. They were very tough, and I understood that. They had a piece of property that if we didn't make a deal, they weren't going to sign on. So they had a lot of leverage. So we had to get into intense conversations because they wanted this and they wanted that. And, we're like, no, we're not. I have my duty to protect the county and the county taxpayer. No. And so what we were able to accomplish was the fact, and I really am excited by the fact that we're partnering with the San Antonio Independent School District. I've asked that we expand it out to all the urban core, so to speak, the Harlandales, the Edgewoods, the South Sands, all those what we consider urban core, more or less within 410. and look about affordable housing, because in regards to that, this shifts the public discussion now that the only way those school districts are going to survive is that they have to increase enrollment. Under the current public finance of education, let's not even touch that, because there's a whole bunch of changes coming in, and we just don't know where public education is going to end up, and it don't look good. But in order for those school districts, so I'm willing to lean in and use whatever tools we have at the county, where we have our PFCs, public finance corporations. We know the city has its TERS. We know that the city has a robust housing program. The SHIP program is what I understand it. And so we want to be very intentional. Now, what I threw back at the school district, and if they're in the room today, they can verify that. I said, look, we need a partner. You're closing down all these schools. You got a lot of raw land out there. Why aren't you partnering up and finding whether these housing, affordable housing can be used on the existing property that you have? They hadn't thought of that. They always thought just repurpose the school building. I said, in some situations, you just need to knock it down and figure it all out. Those are ongoing conversations. And I closed with the school district, and if they're here, they're gonna, I don't know if they appreciate this last remark. I said, look, you wanna be partners with the county, you wanna be partners with the city, then you gotta step up. And they go, what are you talking about? I said, you're gonna have to upgrade your schools. You're gonna have to make sure that people wanna go to your schools in your district. And that's on you. We can bring in all the people in, and if they go send them off to private, charter, and parochial, no net for them. And so I kind of pushed back by saying, if you're going to partner and be part of economic development, then you got to put some skin in the game, so to speak. So that is some of the conversations I've had in this negotiation. I think those are positive conversations, some really brutal, frank, candid conversations. But I think that's what this community needs, is to understand we've got to work together. But we have to all pull our share, so to speak. We have to all be held accountable. And so that's what's exciting about the affordable housing. Can we build up the inner housing stock in the inner city? Can we build up the enrollments in our public schools? Can we keep them viable? Because I'll be honest with you, to look at well, if that doesn't happen, then we'll have to make some really tough decisions.
A critical part of economic development, as you're alluding to, is getting folks from where they live to where they work and where they want to have fun and enjoy themselves. And the San Antonio Metroplex, I know part of regional connectivity is there's been conversations and your strong relationship with Judge Andy Brown from Travis County. Certainly, I think that can continue to be advantageous for folks here in Bexar County. Regarding infrastructure, though, and I know the Alamo Regional Mobility Authority just approved a slate of new projects. So kind of take this where you want to go in whatever direction, Judge, but passenger rail, high-speed rail,
Right.
Those conversations happening? Is that long shot if at best? And then on the Alamo RMA.
Well, let's start with rail. One of the things is that in my starting to be county judge is to connect. So I made a special effort to connect with Judge Andy Brown, who, by the way, is an attorney, who, by the way, actually practiced law in my court, so we already knew each other. And so we were just kind of, oh, yeah, I remember you, you remember me. And so we had an ability to connect, and he was just the big advocate for rail, high-speed rail, in fact, between Austin and San Antonio. And I helped Andy by saying, Andy, there's a lot of history to this, a lot of history, and a lot of damage, so to speak, to people who really stuck their necks out and perhaps their wallets out to try to get high-speed rail. And it's such a very highly political charge, but I stood with him, and I was on a train with him to Austin from San Antonio on Amtrak, and we were trying to figure out, again, trying to find solutions, trying to find ideas, trying to innovate. And I'm going to be real blunt. I don't know where it's at. Judge Brown is committed to do that. But I want to leave this in the room. And this is something I have put out. Okay. And understand one of the real impediments of high-speed rail is the fact that the current track is owned, controlled by Union Pacific. And I understand. They made it real clear. And I didn't demonize or criticize them because they're a business. And they said, Judge, we are making so much money on commercial traffic. We can't share. We're not able to share that track. I said, I get it. So I'm gonna leave you with this. I said, and I told Judge Andy Brown this, I said, I don't know where we're gonna get a rail between Austin and San Antonio, which I would love to in order to get people up and back. People would go to Austin and party, people come to San Antonio and party, whatever they want to do. But I've said, let's look south. And I said, and everybody looks at me, yeah, let's look to Laredo. I think that's viable. I think with our congressional support, understanding that is going to have to probably be heavily subsidized by the federal government. And right now, I don't know how we rely on federal government at this time, but that's just the way it is. But why not? Because we know that Mexico has, with the current president, an initiative, and then we'll see if that's fulfilled. They're going to put high-speed rail from Mexico City to Nuevo Laredo. And the conversations there are, where's the connection to the United States? So why not start from a pilot project, so to speak, Laredo to San Antonio? I'm going to let that stew in the room and figure that out, because obviously I need people in this room that have the expertise with that. But in regards to the RMA, quite frankly, when I started, a lot of people go, and I didn't really know the RMA. Well, what's the RMA? It's Regional Mobile Authority. They're collecting the license fees, and it's for road infrastructure. And I said, well, what do they do? And they go, well, Judge, they really haven't had any big project. I said, well, and I think years ago, I don't know whose idea, but there was a thought to create a tunnel from the airport, and that guy named Elon Musk, let him put a tunnel from the airport downtown. And I go, well, I don't know about that one. And so I engaged, I put a couple appointees on there. Tom Wendorf, Mayor Suzanne de Leon got put on by the RMA by me, putting the right people in the right place. Well, guess what? Their new projects that have come out and are on the books I'm excited about this. They want to make a huge commitment to the Alamo Ranch area to free up that congestion out there. And I'm going to tell you, I don't even want to go out there. The traffic congestion is horrible. So we got a project in Precinct 1, Commissioner Clay Flores, thank you for supporting that. And we've got some Precinct 4 projects. The biggest one I want is the Walsham Road, Commissioner Calvert, where we have that railroad, and that is just a barrier because of the amount of traffic, truck traffic going through there. And they want to either, create an overpass, underpass, whatever. But we have some projects now on the books that we're looking to move forward to utilize those fees that have been dedicated there. So the RMA is engaged. I'm proud that they're moving forward. I know that David Smith, County Manager, you're the designated representative for the county on there. So we're going to make things happen with the RMA.
I know we're running short on time, but I'd be remiss if we didn't touch on public safety. I know you've done a lot of work since your start in office there. Can you give us an update on the plan that you've put in place and the progress report so far?
And I got to give, again, Cynthia Koss, my Director of Community Engagement, she put together the Public Safety Committee. If you all recall, my first year, we had the San Antonio Police Department, the union and the DA really point fingers because there are all these violent offenders shooting at police officers shooting at, and there's this blaming each other going, well, who's responsible for this? Well, I work the court system. It is a complex process. The sheriff's involved, the law enforcement's involved, the court system, the judges, and obviously either city council or commissioner's court, we got to pay for it. So, when we create all this drama and come with no solutions, and we're just literally throwing, so I said, no, we're going to bring everybody together. So what we were able to do is identify certain aspects of our justice system. We looked at our magistration, we have a thing called double magistration. We have the fact that we have a diversion program at the jail along with CHCS and UHS. We've asked them, look, how can we move people in and out? Understanding that our jail, and my commissioners know that, it's overcrowded, it's packed. We're sending people to other counties. And so we've got to come up with diversion in order to get people to the right place. And you say, what does that mean? We've got a lot of people that should not be sitting in our Bexar County jail. And you're going, what do you mean? We got people that are mentally ill. They've committed a crime. They're probably a danger to themselves or other, but they're mentally ill, and they shouldn't be in there. They should be in a forensic bed. And that is something I have constantly been trying to work with my chief of staff to build that capacity. We also have people that have been declared mentally incompetent and again, should be sent to a state hospital. Guess what? The state doesn't take them because they're full. And so what we have is, and then we have, unfortunately, low-level offenders still that because of whatever, they can't bond out of the jail. But I can tell you that we now have a district attorney, we have the judges, we have law enforcement, all working together because they're communicating with each other. And they're being told, you guys better come up with solutions other than telling Commissioners Court, we need more money. I'm sure that's what happens over at City Council. We need more money. And that's not necessarily going to fix it. Remember what I talked about. It's about process, it's about accountability. And that's what I try to demand of all the county departments. So in regards to public safety, that's really one of the #1 issues. One of the other pledges that I made was that county government would be more open and transparent. Well, guess what? We did town hall meetings, and from that we learned that public safety and the issue of homelessness, the unhoused, are really the top issues. And so this community is demanding of its elected officials that they want to be kept safe. Now, some of that is exasperated because we have a media that every shooting and every crime, unfortunately, makes the evening news, and we have to kind of deal with that. And so the challenges to the Commissioners Court, the challenges to the City Council, the challenge to all of us is how do we work together? How do we communicate and collaborate and come up with the right understanding? There will be times where we will disagree, but as county judge, I will always respectfully agree to disagree. And I hope that we will get back into that discourse. Can we have lively debates, but let's not get so personal. Let's not get so partisan. Let's not get whatever we do that breaks communication down. So for my vision, so to speak, is that we try to help this community understand that we're all in it together, and I need you. I'm going to need you for this county venue tax. I'm going to need you to continue to support my commissioners and the Commissioners Court and help us understand what your needs are too. Because I haven't even touched the procurement, well, I did touch procurement, Supply SA, our purchasing agent, Gregory Galloway. And what we want to do is make sure that small businesses are thriving, that they are not being inundated with fees and regulations and whatever else things that we can put as impediments. But also understand, we're going to have to make the deals with the Toyotas. We're going to have to make the deals with JCB. And there's going to be people in our community go, why are you doing that? Because it's in the best interest of everybody. And I hope that we all understand we're all in this together.
I was going to ask you for closing remarks, Judge, but I think you already
I think I made my closing statement.
took the mantle there. Yeah. At this time, I'll invite Rob Killen up for some brief closing remarks. But Judge, I think by evidence of today's conversation, your hard work over the 2 years in office, thank you on behalf of the San Antonio business community, our organization. You're not short on challenges, but I think the opportunity for San Antonio, certainly at a transformational time and a pivotal moment in our city's history and county's history for that matter. Thank you for being here today and all that you do for our community. If you'll help me give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Judge Sakai, great job. Brett, amazing interview. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for participating. Remember to go vote. Really appreciate your support of the Metro SA Chamber. You all have a great afternoon. And we're going to take some pictures. So everybody else can go. We'd like the George team to come up. Aaron Bly and Caleb Chance and Paul. Paul's still here? Come on up. We're going to take a few pictures.